If you're a man and you've gone through this, and probably if you're watching this, you're a man and you have suffered from the consistent, repeated fate of so many men in this. We as men, we enter into a relationship, we give it all. First thing a man goes through when he goes into family, his marriage, his custody of his child, whatever the situation is, he goes through, what did I do wrong? He feels insane guilt. He goes, man, I was wrong. And at that point, not that the woman is plotting this, and if they did, they'd do it much worse, but they see it and they start to take advantage of it, they start blaming him of what he did wrong. And then he desperately tries to claw back. And this is one of the most screwed up things that I hate about men's advice in the manosphere and where it is drop the ball with men. It clearly comes from a place of theory and philosophy and not working with men. But for most of the guys who lead the manosphere, is they call that being a pussy. They call that you being devastated by your family being lost and going to the natural guilt that you feel, that every single man feels in that's weak. No, man, look, if you were married, your vows were to fight for that, till death do us part, or whatever it is you believed. And maybe even when you made those vows, you didn't fully believe it, but when you made those vows, you then worked to work something. And there were tons of times where you didn't leave, where you stuck through, where you worked the extra hours while she was cheating on you or plotting how she's taking your money or whatever. And that is something that you should be pissed off about. That is something that you should be pissed off about, but it's also something that if you're a man with any shred of dignity, you should fight for. And we now have a culture of men who live in a fantasy world of what men are supposed to be, that make up the superhero of what our generation is and yada, 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 that are giving advice to men in pain, that are giving advice to kids who are trying to become men, boys who are trying to become men. And they're basically saying that money, sex, power is going to solve that, and that if you can be tough enough and block it, then you're there. And what does that then say? Like, I'm not saying there's anything even bad to money, sex, and power. What I'm saying is when you think that is the solution to a problem of your marriage, life, custody stuff falling apart, it's not. And the problem is then it makes men feel bad about one of the greatest virtues that they have. And this is gonna sound pretty screwed up, but when you're getting left, when you're seeing your family fall apart and you're fighting for it and you're in pain on the ground, begging for it and wishing you could do better, that comes from an intense place of love, integrity, and greatness. It's misaligned. It's not the best thing. It does need to stop at some point, but it should never be seen as weakness. That is the strongest thing. And think about this, if you've gone through that. That is one of the strongest things for you to fight to stay alive. That thing aged you. That thing gave you the gray hair. That thing gave you the wrinkles. That thing gave you the pain that you can never forget. You're a changed man after that. Because the love, the dream, the beauty being ripped from you has a scar. And you should be proud of that. That is not a sign of weakness. You know, part of the reason why, I mean, man, I can go on and on about this, and especially just with working as men as long as I have, we don't have a culture that has any real icons of masculinity. We don't have the neighborhood man that is seen as something good. We have the dude on steroids with fake teeth that did the plastic surgery, that looks good enough, that has the silver tongue, that has all these things which are good. They're not necessarily bad. We see the shiny, bright man that we can never know, that is only online, that you can't shake their hand, that you can't see walking down the street, you can't see in hard times, you can't see them in the reality of life, broadcasting on what masculinity is, selling to a desperate culture of men, of boys who were oftentimes raised by single mothers, of boys that didn't have a proper person to look up to, so they found a false hero that now as men see that with the manosphere.